Hey, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Oh, not too bad. Just sitting here doing a little blazing of my own, and my husband's coming home in a few minutes, so I'll say hi to him, and then I'm here to chat with you.
Rock and roll. Well, we're happy to have you. I felt like you were kind of kicking some science to some people, and I was like, you know what? Like, why don't we
Oh,
get somebody that's got some level of understanding, even on a basic functional level, about some of this
yeah,
stuff?
like I said, I am no expert by any means, but I listen to these people, and it just makes my brain boil because I'm like, y'all just go take a microbiology class, go take a virology class, go take a genetics class, go take a I had all the basics in school, but damn, I mean, this information is so basic.
Yeah, well, it just seems that people have this aversion to anything that would remotely resemble listening to science. Like it's we have this hatred or fear of experts. It seems like, you know what I mean?
That, and I think a huge, honestly, I think a really, really big part of the whole thing is them being embarrassed to find out that they were wrong and being able to admit that they were wrong. Like those of us who are in the medical and the science industry, that's why I'm saying medicine always changes. Like we are fully, like even Fauci was like, hey, we were wrong in the beginning. Things have changed. The virology has changed. The contagiousness has changed. Like things change. Why does people are like, well, you're saying something different than 2 years ago? Okay, well, that was 2 freaking years ago.
Yeah, I mean
Things have changed.
the virus
Medicine,
mutates,
that's
right?
why they
You
call
know.
it practice.
Say that again. Sorry.
Oh, I was saying that's why they call it's the practice of medicine. It's things evolve, things change. We learn new things, we discover new things. The microbes themselves, the viruses themselves evolve. Things change.
Yeah, and it makes
So
sense.
when
So
I hate it when people say, well, the messaging has changed. Yes. Do you think we have the same stuff about polio that we were saying 50 years ago? No. Why? Because things change.
thank you,
So it's
thank you.
just very frustrating.
No, I feel you on
I
that.
hate to ride my high horse, and I know I talk to so many people. I have a lot of friends that I've alienated because they're like, you need to get off your damn pedestal, and I'm like, well, fuck. I'm sorry, I earned this pedestal. I have
Right?
a piece of paper on my thing. I have worth $100,000 on my hutch that says I earned this goddamn pedestal. Listen,
Yeah. So just so that the people that listen know, can you tell them a little bit about what your background is?
yeah, so I have an associate's of science degree from UCC in Roseburg, and then I transferred to OSU where I got a bachelor's degree in animal science. I majored in large animal medicine, minored in companion animal medicine. I worked in a small animal shelter in Roseburg, Oregon. I was the spay neuter clinic manager there for 3 years. Um, and then I just kind of bounced around working in different clinics, working as a surgical technician and a doctor's technician, and then receptionist, and just kind of an all around Renaissance kind of vet girl, and just kind of did a lot of stuff for a lot of different places. And um, my main source of interest was surgical medicine and dentistry. I really enjoyed working with that stuff, but I also really enjoyed dabbling in parasitology and uh,
Hence your
pathology. I really like the progression of disease and the causes behind it and the what it does to the body type of thing. Those are things that really interest me. So basically a lot of internal stuff.
like internal medicine and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very very
Yeah.
cool. So you've like that brings a lot of light to the comments you were making about what was it? I'm drawing a blank.
Ivermectin
Ivermectin. Yeah, ivermectin.
and
I because I caught your comments on the YouTube clips too, and I was like, oh yeah, she does know what she's talking about. So
yeah, so yeah, it's one of those things. I understand why the progressive and the left media has latched onto this whole it's horse dewormer, it's toaster dewormer, because they're trying to shame people. And I get that. I really do. But I think it's a little disingenuous because it's not just a large animal dewormer, especially you guys in Arizona with heartworm in the dog population there and cats too. But almost everyone who lives in Arizona who has a dog has them on some sort of heart guard or those type of things. Those are all ivermectin. They're in small doses given every month. They're perfectly safe. They're perfectly reasonable. The dosages that were causing the sperm malfunctions and stuff in those studies, they were given at astronomical rates, like kind of when the sucralose was given to rats and it was causing tumors.
Gotcha.
And everyone was like, oh, sweet and low is causing cancer. Well, yeah, if you're giving them the equivalent of 1,500 times what they should be getting a day, yeah, there's probably going to be some issues. So kind of the same thing with the ivermectin trials. Now, that being said, yeah, people should not just be taking ivermectin unless you have a parasitic worm or skin infection like scabies or Demodex or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Then yeah, absolutely, ivermectin's totally reasonable, but not for a virus.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's an anti-parasitic, not an antiviral. Yes. So like it doesn't even make sense that it would work for that to me.
Yeah, you got rats come in with lice and we'd give them ivermectin lotion to put on their skin. I mean, I don't know how many times I had to mix up ivermectin with skin things or stuff to give to rabbits or this or that for the hair lice and stuff. I mean, it's fine. And like I said, we give it to our dogs every month for heartworm medicine. Mm-hmm. But yeah, taking it for a virus, if somebody told me to give it to my dog for parvo, I'd be like, why? That's a virus.
Yeah, it just simply doesn't make sense.
There's one study in Australia that said that it might have some effect against parvo. Okay, well then why don't you go to Australia and feed your fucking dog ivermectin, because it's not going to affect what's happening here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's a logical fallacy. It's a bad leap. It's people grasping at straws. And like I said, people are afraid. That's why I had that thing on there with the goal and the post. They're constantly moving these goalposts. Well, if one thing is wrong, hydrochloroquine was wrong. And then, like I said, this whole thing with ivermectin came from one failed study out of Australia.
Mm-hmm.
It was a failed, debunked study. One.
And people are just like, we're going to run with that.
They just latched onto it, and they latched onto it and they just ran with it. And that's another thing that's super frustrating. A lot of these things come out of, and that's part of the problem with media, is they just blast these things out and people don't. Yes, the media should be fact checking themselves, but at the same time, when I see things come out, I go, whoa, that sounds weird. And you know what I do? I look into it.
Sure.
Granted, I work and I have a lot of time on my hands, but I mean, it takes me about 5-10 minutes to pull up a simple Google search and go, hey, wait a minute, this is not right.
But the research is hard. You actually have to go read stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That always seems like that's been the biggest curse, is people just can't seem to wrap their head around the fact that,
right.
Hey,
I might have to click out of my normal, oh God, I don't even know what these people, OANN or whatever bullshit thing they've got pulled up on their phone.
Mm-hmm.
They might have to click outside of that. Oh, heaven forbid. So I don't know. It just hurts me. And me and my husband sit and talk, and he works with a lot of very conservative guys. They're very nice people. I'm not going to trash the people he works with. Mm-hmm. He works for the city and they're very nice people, but they've got some weird ideas. So he comes home and he'll talk about things, and me and him talk about things. And our neighbors have a Trump 2024 flag flying proudly in their yard. And
I'm so sorry.
they're extremely nice people. We've had no issues with them, but sometimes I look outside and I'm just like, oh. And honestly, we do, because we do live in such a red country, or community, we know we are safe,
right?
But at the same time, we don't really socialize a whole lot.
I can't imagine running out with a bunch of like the progressive ideas I know that we kind of share on things. They're going to get much much favor out there, huh?
No, but like I said, everyone is armed and we know we're safe. Hey, babe, I'm talking to Jason, just letting you know. But hi, love you. Talk to you in a little bit. Yeah, so like I said, we don't really socialize, but they are nice people. And that's the thing. The people that we live around are super cool, but they do have, so we don't talk about those ideas. But it is hard to see that, and it is hard to see like some of my friends on Facebook or people that I don't associate with anymore. I'll kind of check in on them, how are they doing, and I see some of their stuff on their pages and I'm like, oh damn. You know,
Why do you want to kill your family? That's like,
luckily my family's pretty cool.
you know,
I haven't had any issues with my family. It's just peripherals.
but that's what I mean. Like, I don't, like, I want to ask these people, like, why do you want to kill your family? You know, and
well, yeah, exactly. What? That's what I'm saying. What is the big deal? Why are you guys so opposed to protecting children? I just don't understand the mentality.
like,
You know, and then when I learned that in Roseburg, Oregon, when the little town my parents live in, which is bigger than the town we live in by heaps, but it's still a pretty small town.
mhm.
I think that's 40,000 or something, or 60,000 Roseburg is. Anyway, they had a gentleman die on a bed in the lobby of the ER because there wasn't enough room for him to be admitted. And he wasn't there for COVID. He was there for some kind of a respiratory or heart failure or something. But yeah, a gentleman that in the hospital that I had my hysterectomy in, that was like literally a half a mile, maybe a mile from my parents' house, a gentleman died in the waiting room of the ER inside the building
Because there weren't
he
beds,
couldn't
right?
get treatment because they were full of COVID patients. And then not a week later, 2 weeks later, a child died there. They still haven't released whether the child died of COVID or something else. But the point is, come on. Is this necessary? It's a town of 40,000 people. They are that backed up to the point where they are turning people away for heart conditions? If my parents get sick, what the fuck are they going to do? Eugene is 65 miles away. That is the nearest hospital besides Roseburg.
Well, and I
So
think
what if my parents have an emergency and what are they going to do? Hope that they can make the hour and a half, and then what if they get to Eugene and there's no hospital room?
well, and you're actually getting to like the depth into the crux of the issue, which is basically that the people that are choosing not to get vaccinated, it's not that it's just a personal choice and it just affects you, and if you die it just affects you, or if you get sick it just affects you. This is putting an enormous strain on our already kind of crappy medical system, you know, and we're not able to sustain with that. And then, you know, here's the thing that always echoes in my head is like, what about I think, and this is genuinely what I think about. Like, do you realize you're also victimizing your family if you die, even if they don't get it? I mean, they're robbed of a loved one. They're robbed of an uncle, a aunt, a grandma, a dad, you know, a cousin, you know, a nephew, you know. They're robbed of somebody that was important in their life, you know. And it's like, and I understand that, you know, you got your personal freedoms, but, you know, I know people care about their families. You know, like,
and the thing that really irks me the most, and I was listening, I shouldn't have, but sometimes I had to drive into state, and today I had to go buy some worms for my chickens and some bullshit, so I drove into town, and sometimes I turn on the AM radio, and just because I like to listen to the other side, because it's good to be informed. I'm not a completely biased idiot, you know.
Sure.
And Lars Larson was on, and they were talking about some of this vaccine stuff, and my brain was melting, and they were sitting there like, well, you know, obviously the vaccine's not working if vaccinated people are getting the virus. And I'm sitting there screaming in my car. I'm like, that's not the fucking point, you fuckwits. I was like, the thing is, it's not a foolproof. Yes, people who get the vaccine are still going to get the virus, but the point is, the more people get the vaccine, less people are going to get the virus. It's not going to mutate. You're not going to spread it to other people. I mean, it's not rocket science, you know? And like I said, my brain was leaking out my nose driving along the road, just screaming at the radio.
Well, and I always I'm like struggling with some of this stuff a little bit because it's like you can't, it's so hard to change these people's mind, right?
Exactly. Yes, that's the worst.
But one of the things I have started to do, because I feel like I've been one of the ones that sometimes I do get a little like shamey, towards people, and
we should be.
But on a certain level, they shut off, and
I know
any kind of dialogue that you could have with them to change their mind is gone. I'm just
like, I'm at the point where persistence is the only thing we have left.
I will say this, through showing a lot of empathy and being very soft pedaled in my approach, I was able to get one anti-masker, anti-vaxxer to start wearing masks when they go out and when they take their kids out.
Good. And I'm very happy to hear that.
And I'm like, you know what? Sometimes it's got to be those incremental steps, and maybe the next step, I can coerce them into choosing to take the vaccine.
Something's better than nothing,
Exactly. And so, but I do think that there are ways to change minds. One of the things I try to talk about on the stream a lot is that we have to find a way to find common ground with one another. Like even in that video and even if in that video with Jank that you shot over, which I really appreciate, that was great.
Yeah, I know.
You could hear and see him trying to find a middle ground with them.
Because he wants to so bad, but he's just like butting up against a brick wall. And yeah, exactly. I mean, we want desperately, because the thing is, if we find that middle ground, this will all be over. And that's what AJ and I talk about all the time together. We're like, if people would have just done this for 2 months in the beginning, this would be over. But they cry about this is not ending. And it's like, well, why do you think? People?
So you want to hear one of the strangest things I heard? Is that the reason that they're doing masks is because they're going to try to enact Sharia law?
I've heard that a little bit. They're like, pretty soon, you're not going to be allowed to shave your armpits and you have to blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay.
Nobody in the United States is going to force everyone to wear burqas. I'm sorry, I'm not seeing that. It's not happening.
I know.
And there's one reason. I'll say this. There's one reason. We live in a very sexualized culture. Nobody's going for that shit here. It's just not going to happen. You're not going to see it. Did you just watch the VMAs? Like I know,
right? Oh my God.
Who's hopping on board for that?
The leaps and the bounds these people make, it's just absolutely unbelievable to me. And then you listen to the Tuckers of the world and stuff, which he's another one that just makes my brain thump. And it's I just don't understand that. I guess I do sort of understand the agenda, but I don't at the same time. Like, and I've heard people ask this before, like, what's the end game to all of this? Not the vaccines, not just the masks, not just the, like, underneath all of this crap that we've all been dealing with for the past, God, I don't know what, babe, 15, 20 years? I mean, what's the end game? I just don't understand. What's the point? Like,
it's all like little schemes. It's all these, what I think it is it's people that are very short-sighted, and the whole goal is just to run their little scheme to get whatever it is they want, and they don't care who they hurt in the process. They'll create as much stochastic terrorism as they can.
Like, when the zit comes to a head, like, what's the point? Like, what are they going to do?
Well, I don't know. Our planet's going to burn up, and we're all going to be diseased. So,
right.
You cannot breathe money.
To prolong ourselves rather than fuck us up. I just don't understand it.
They're very nihilistic. I think it's a very nihilistic approach. I don't even think that they're necessarily ideologues. I think they're grifters and opportunists. And I think that's
it's all about now, me. I agree, and I guess some of us who are a little more forward thinking, it's just kind of like, well, okay, well, now you got this, and this. Now what? Well, now what? I guess that's just part of my background and my training is I'm always forced to think about what's next. And so I kind of gravitate towards what's this all going to mean? What's the game? What's the point?
Yeah, there's no real net positive for anybody, right?
No.
Um,
Yeah, you have all
because
this
even
money, you
them,
have all this money. So what, you die on a hill of money?
well, and even if you think about these people, if their goal is to sustain business, right? If that's what they want to do, if they want to sustain their business, the only thing that they're going to get is they're going to get worker shortages because you're going to have a bunch of dead people. Okay.
Yeah.
You're going to have a bunch of sick people, which is going to put a
That's
strain
what
on your
makes
industry.
sense.
Like there's nothing good that I can see that comes out of it for major industry. That's also the reason why when people say, "Oh, well, scientists can just get greedy and they're just in it for the money and this and that," I'm like, well,
Or what?
no, well, but also
If you
like,
spend every so often.
here's my thing with that though. Like, okay, so if they were really in it for the money, would they be pushing vaccines or would they be pushing Regeneron?
Things that make you right, exactly, things that make you either the healing or the things that prolong sickness. They would not be pushing things that heal you,
Right.
like
Or that
prevent it.
or
I'm
that are
sorry, prevent it.
preventatives, yeah.
Yeah, and that's my whole thing when I worked in vet med. That was a big thing too. Was people would always be like, "Oh, you guys are just in it for the money." When we would talk about flea preventative or heartworm preventative, we're like, "We make pennies on this. You know how much money we make off heartworm treatment?" And we're telling you to prevent it instead, which is it makes us $5 a month compared to thousands of dollars a month for heartworm treatment. Like, we're not just in it for the money, you fuckwits. Like,
Right. Yeah.
I just don't get it because, like you said, there's much more money in the treatment than there is for the prevention.
So,
Ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
yeah, exactly. And that's why I'm sitting here like if these guys wanted to make money, that's what they'd be doing. They wouldn't be coming out with any kind of
It'd be the covalent plasma, it'd be all of this stuff. That's where the money would be.
yeah. Yeah, the what was monoclonal
Monoclonal antibodies. That's
yeah.
the plasma. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean they wouldn't be doing this shit. Like this is not where the investment is for people that want to get rich,
No, it is not. No, it is not. And it makes me laugh too when people say, "Oh, big pharma creates these chronic medications." The chronic medications cost nothing. My chronic medications cost nothing. My husband's chronic medications cost nothing. My mom's chronic medications cost nothing. The money is in the splashy shit, the EpiPens, that kind of stuff. That's where the money is.
Mm-hmm.
But the big pharma is not making money off keeping you sick on thyroid medicine or heart medicine or whatever. Like that is not what is keeping big pharma in money. And vaccines are not keeping. Oh my God, the markup on vaccines when I worked, it's nothing. Like people think we made so much money off of vaccines in vet med. The vaccines are not cheap, and so the money we charge, it was not much more than the vaccine. Like there's no money in vaccines.
Yeah.
And in fact, a lot of companies they had to put in that people always claim the whole stupid fairs and the whole blah 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 thing about the giving money back to the people who have been injured by vaccines and as a way to protect them. The reason why they did that is because the companies were making so little money on the vaccines that any injury that created a payout was going to collapse the whole system.
Mm-hmm.
So they set up the system where the government would pay out the money for the vaccine injuries to prevent the pharmacy companies from stopping production of life-saving vaccines to make sure they were available, like polio, right, like MMR, like the DTaP and all of those. And so
well, even fairs you can't look at with any kind of credibility because anybody can report on fairs,
Did you hear about the guy who said that the MMR turned him into Hulk Hogan, and he went on there and he put like 400 or 4,000 entries into Bears saying that he turned into Hulk Hogan.
I did not see that, but that's great.
Yes, yes. So, yeah. Oh, Jason, I spent a lot of time without any work to do. I spent a lot of time on my own online. Like I said, my husband laughs at me, but yes, there is a lot of crap out there, and theirs is such a cesspool of nothing. Um, there's a Facebook page I used to follow back in the day called Things Anti-Vaxxers Say. Oh, good Lord, some of the
But you could,
I'd get so stoned and just wallow in that cesspool, and um,
but
yeah, so
but
much
you can
misinformation.
cure everything with essential oils.
Yeah, lavender, duh.
Yeah, just a little lavender and rosemary oil, you'd be fine.
Oh gosh, a little diffuser action, right? What is that? Was it young? Was it Young Earth or what is that? The what is that oil bullshit? The MLM.
Oh,
Young.
is that what it is?
I know doTERRA was one, and there was another one, Young Living or Young Earth or something.
Oh,
But I know
jeez.
doTERRA was one of them. But yeah, that oh, good Lord, don't get me started.
Wine moms with too much time on their hands.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it.
No,
You know.
a funny thing about MLMs is I remember like years ago, I had an associate of my dad's that was like trying to get me into Amway. I'm like, screw this, dude. Like, there's no
Which one is
freaking
Amway? Is
way.
that the influence thing?
Amway was like this old, like, it was like a catalog sales. They mostly sold like household, like cleaning supplies and shit like that.
Um,
But Amway had been around forever. That was like one of the oldest MLMs. And then it turned into this thing called Sky Mall. And I don't even know if it's still around anymore. But
oh, okay. I know my dad when I was in, gosh, I think late junior high school or something. I know my dad got involved in this company. It was very short-lived, with his friend where they were selling like personal like rape alarms and like these things that made noise if you were in trouble, like personal alarms.
mm-hmm.
Not they didn't have like stun guns or mace or anything like that, but they would release like super loud noises or electronic pulse or something like that. But I know he was involved with that very shortly. Um, and then I will admit, before I got into college, I sold Kirby vacuums for about 6 months.
There you go. See, that's another one. Yep.
Yeah.
They're out there. As long as we don't start selling steaks, I think we're all right. Get your Omaha steaks. Got you covered.
Hey, I love Omaha steaks. Are you kidding me?
They are
I used
good.
to live in Denver. We loved our Omaha steaks.
They are good. I'm not going to knock that.
Oh, they're really good. Honestly, when we get those coupons, oh man, they were good. Good deal. Um, my parents-in-law send us a package every now and then for Christmas, which is kind of nice.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I think we're going to transition over. I'm going to try to get onto this walk-on panel with Prime and see.
Cool. Thanks for having me, dude. It was really nice talking to you.
Heck yes. And I want to have you back on again so that we can talk more about this kind of stuff. I think you provide a really good level of insight, and I can tell like you're read up and a little fed up, and that's me too. So
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Just drop me a line anytime. I kind of just keep my phone with me all the time, so I'm usually available around this time of evening. So yeah, I'm more than willing to talk anytime you have some questions.
for sure. Thanks very much.
All right, bye, Jason.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. That was great. She is letting me use her